Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Not Another Rangers podcast. It's your Monday night edition. We are 2 minutes late. My apologies. We get some grief in the chat whenever I'm 30 seconds late. So our apologies. We were just meeting up with Matt, who's going to join us tonight and talk all things Danny Rohl. So my apologies for that couple of minutes over schedule. So it's been 15 days, I think. Is that right? 15 days since Russell Martin was sacked. I can never actually remember. I think it was a Sunday. I'm now on the Monday, so I'm going with that. 15 days since Russell Martin was sacked, and we've had a saga. We've had dramas, we've had tears, we've had tantrums. Most of that have been from the Rangers fans. Once we thought we were going to have Steven Gerrard. He came, he went, he never took the job. As of last week, when I left you two guys to do the podcast on Friday night, it was all about Kevin Muscat. He was on his way. I was in the pub thinking, and never got to hear any of it because the game came thick and fast the next day. But we thought he was a done deal. Then comes yesterday, and I think I put in a chat, Ricky, I said, I've not heard much about Kevin Muscat, and 2 minutes later he texted back and said that no, unfortunately, I think it's went tits up basically. So that as of the next 24 hours, it's been a little bit manic. It's been a little bit intense, a little bit crazy. And at early on, 4:30 or so this afternoon, or earlier on this afternoon, Danny Rohl was appointed the new Rangers head coach. Sorry, we don't say manager now, don't we? Head coach. So, well, we could talk about the game on Saturday. We probably won't. Well, we could talk much about Muscat and Gerrard. Probably won't. We're going to focus our attention on the future, and the future is Danny Rohl. We're delighted to have with us Matt. Matt, welcome to Not Another Rangers podcast. We are me and Scott from the west of Scotland. Ricky's are both smoky, so if you struggle with the accents, struggle with the questions we're asking you, please just get us to repeat them again. So welcome.
I was just going to say, chaps, I'll say the same as well. As you can probably tell, I'm not native to Sheffield. I'm from Birmingham. So if you are struggling again, please do say.
so welcome to the podcast, Matt. We're really delighted to have you on. We really appreciate you giving up your time tonight. So I don't know if you want to maybe tell us a little bit yourself and the podcast that you do for Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am Matt Johnson. I am one half of the Wednesday Till I Die podcast. We are a podcast that goes out on Sunday evenings. We do a debate show on a Wednesday. We cover all things Sheffield Wednesday, home and away. It's been a very busy time period for Sheffield Wednesday. I'm sure everybody's seen over the last, 6-7 months, really. But yeah, it's a club that is keeping you entertained if you are a wider football fan at the minute with what's going on. And I think at the moment, with regards to the independent football regulator who's coming in as well, we are set to be the test case for the independent football regulator, and I suppose what the powers that there are actually at their disposal, how it will be wielded and how it will be used. I know that there will be a lot of people, and obviously seeing the conversation surrounding kind of Rangers on X and on other social platforms as well. There's a lot of conversations around ownership and in particular sporting directors at the football club. I mean, if you are interested in what a truly, truly terrible ownership group looks like, I know you have a history with it and I know you have experience with it, so I do feel like I'm in good company here. But yeah, it's what we're currently experiencing at the minute and going through it. So yeah, it's a tough time to be a Sheffield Wednesday fan at the minute. So actually talking about a manager in Danny Rohl, who most Sheffield Wednesday fans think very highly of, really, really positive.
Matt, just ask me, before you go into Danny Rohl, what's happening regarding Wednesday and administration and the owner? Is the owner willing to sell? Is he not giving a shit basically? Or
is
administration happening? Are you getting points deducted? Is it? I know a fans try to boycott. I seen the thing on X. The fans were saying boycott games, but we've had that situation at Rangers in the past where everybody's an individual. So some will boycott, some will still want to go no matter what because they want to support the team. They don't care about everything else. Just want to watch your team on the park. So basically, that's what we all do. So what's happening regarding the situation at the moment? Because I know it's like on X, I hear really bad, but even heard it on Talk Sport, and it's not great by all accounts.
I think it's really, it's interesting. So you'll see the scarf that is over my right shoulder here, which is the Sheffield Wednesday Supporters Trust. The Sheffield Wednesday Supporters Trust are the group who I think just by de facto have ended up sort of running the running sort of the anti-ownership sort of campaign and what we as fans can do. Fans have boycotted the League Cup games. So for any League Cup games that have been at Hillsborough, fans have boycotted them ordinarily for a League Cup game. So then most of the time they're a midweek game. So you get about 20,000 there. There's been about 5,000 fans in attendance, home fans and away fans. So it's been down significantly. We actually have a game against Middlesbrough on Wednesday where there is a call from, again, the Supporters Trust. This is the first league game that would be boycotted. It's live on Sky Sports. Majority of Sheffield Wednesday fans that you will speak to won't be going to the game. Middlesbrough have sold out their away end. The only that they have, most Middlesbrough fans have said that they aren't going to spend £1 in the ground, because that is what is currently the messaging from Sheffield Wednesday fans. Is someone like myself who bought a season ticket back in January during our early bird release sale for the small sum of £600-something to watch mediocre Championship football. You've paid your money and that money's already been spent by our chairman. Any new money that's going into the club this season, has just been told, no, don't spend any money. So home shirts, unconfirmed reports on the day of release, there were 70 shirts sold. Fans have held 5-minute protests outside of Leicester where there was not a fan inside of the stadium for the first 5 minutes, and then everybody went into the ground. A number of protests away from home. There was a on-the-pitch protest against Coventry where the game was halted. In terms of points deductions and embargoes, currently Sheffield Wednesday sit under 5 transfer embargoes, a whole raft of different things. So I think if we're being completely honest, a points deduction is on the way, but that's nothing new under this ownership group. We've had that when we were last relegated to League One. We were relegated by 6 points. Ironically, started the season on -6 due to the ownership's poor financial decision making. Where I think we will end up, the owner has had bids for the football club. Those bids range from £40 million to just short of £70 million for a football club that at the time had one of the cheapest, one of the poorest assembled squads in the division. It was, I think, the 4th lowest wage in the division. We still had Danny Rohl in charge as a manager at that point, but he'd made it fairly clear that he didn't want to stay there. Hillsborough as a stadium is crumbling 2 days before our home opener. Fans who sit in the north stand. So do you remember when Rangers came down for the friendly? And you had the away end, the Leppings Lane end. You also had the north stand where Rangers were in. That stand was deemed unsafe and not fit for purpose. And if you are looking at a football stadium that you do not want to attribute to a fan potential disaster, it is Hillsborough. That was deemed not safe even 2 days before the start of the home opener against Stoke. That was then signed off, but the roof is crumbling and falling down on that stand. It's a real mess. The owner is into it for £170 million and is looking to try and make his money back. The reality is Sheffield Wednesday are worth, all told, including the ground, because the club don't own the ground anymore because the owner sold it to himself, trying to get around financial fair play. Sheffield Wednesday is probably worth within the region of £20 to £30 million on a good day at the minute, but he's holding out for bids of 70.
So Danny Rohl, Matt, what can we, as Rangers fans, what can we expect out of Danny Rohl? And who do you think he'll bring in as his backroom team? Do you think, though, because we're expecting 2 people probably from Scotland to support him with him not knowing the league up here, but there was word that he's probably going to bring two guys in. Who are they? Who's his trusted lieutenants?
It's really interesting. So, I mean, let's first off deal with the manager. Danny Rohl, from a Sheffield Wednesday fan, aside from ones who are, and I'm going to annoy a lot of Sheffield Wednesday fans here who feel this way, aside from the way he left the football club, Danny Rohl is irrefutably our best manager in the last decade. To give some context of when he came into the football club, we had the worst start to a championship season on record. We hadn't won for 12 games. I think we'd taken 1 point in those 12 games. We were rock bottom and staring relegation in the face. If we then fast forward to Danny Rohl was interviewed in the summer, pre that start to the season. He didn't get the job, very similar to what happened at yourselves by all accounts. We then waited. We appointed Cisco Munoz, who had a track record of history of promotion at Watford. He was a disaster and an absolute car crash. We then appointed Danny Rohl, and I went to Watford away, which was his first game. We lost the game 1-0, but there was an immediate, oh my God, there's a plan. This guy knows what he's doing. What he did over the course of that next week, going back to your second part of that question, was look to appoint, firstly, staff who knew the league, because yes, he had been in English football before being an assistant to Ralph Hasenhüttl. If you listen to Charlie Austin has said that Danny Rohl is actually the brains behind the operation, just spoke in German and Hasenhüttl translated it effectively. But what he did was go out and he was very clever in people who he got in the club. So he got Chris Powell in, who was with the England setup at the time, who's just gone to assist, I think, Jack Wilshere at Luton. So he brought Chris Powell in, who knew the Championship inside out, knew the players who were there. He then went to a couple of different places to recruit backroom staff, namely Henrik Pedersen, who came over from Norway. He left a managerial job to come in and be his assistant. He's now our manager. So in terms of his backroom staff, this was actually something that I'm very interested to see in who he goes and appoints, because his trusted lieutenants that were at Sheffield Wednesday won't be available for him because they're both in posts as a result of the success that they had within the coaching setup under Danny Rohl at Sheffield Wednesday. So I am very interested. What I would say is that when Danny Rohl tipped up at Sheffield Wednesday, nobody knew who he was. Nobody knew really what to expect. He was a complete unknown quantity. And in the first month, 2 months, he made decisions in spite of the poor ownership that is at the football club that all led to progress and success on the football pitch. At Sheffield Wednesday, it was slow, and he won't be afforded that time at Rangers. I'm aware of that because of obviously the size of the club. But you could see as a fan that there were shoots of recovery amongst a very poor Championship team. We actually finished the season with if you'd have started the season from when Rohl came in, with the fourth lowest budget in the division, we actually finished the season 8th in the table. So he did pick up a massive amount of points between when he came in October and the end of the season with a really poor squad.
So what would you say his biggest strengths are? You talk about you've seen an immediate change in the first couple of games. What was that you seen? What was the sort of identifiers? What was kind of the difference in play that you actually thought was something here?
I think what you saw from Danny Rohl in the first month or so was he was incredibly adaptable to the players that he had at his disposal. He came in and clearly wanted to play a particular way. However, he'd realised within the first 2 games that he didn't have the players to do that. So he very quickly pivoted to a style that was just geared on getting results. It wasn't his ideal because he didn't implement that until his actual second season of managing us, whereby we were... I'll be honest with you, we weren't particularly pretty at times to watch, but you could gravitate towards it as a fan because not only were you picking up results in games that you didn't necessarily anticipate picking up results in, but you were also always competitive in games. And I think I always think with Rohl at Wednesday, you're going to have to contextualise that with the situation at Rangers, because the situation with himself at you is he's going to be expected to start his first game with a win, and his next game with a win, and his third game with a win. What I would say is that he's going to assess the squad that is there. I would be amazed if he hasn't been keeping an eye on it since the start of the season to see how he thinks the team should be set up and the way in which that he would use the players at his disposal, and thinks about, right, how can we go about getting results moving forward. I think that his adaptability as a coach is one. I think secondly, the way that he gets you as a supporter to buy into him, I think is crucial. It's really bizarre for a man who had never actually managed against Sheffield Wednesday. He knew the club inside out, inside of 2-3 weeks. He was able to rattle off history about the club. He was able to rattle off, key games from 2 or 3 seasons ago where a player who was still in the side was impactful on that game, and he'd utilised him in a very similar role further down the line. Several players came out to speak at the end of that first season and say the meetings that he goes through with the players are so incredibly detailed, and what he is not afraid to do is call players out when they are not performing to the standard that they are. I think it was Barry Bannon and Josh Windass have both spoke on this, is in those meetings, he will leave you in no uncertain term, this is what your job is. And if you aren't doing that on the Monday morning post that, he sits down in the meeting and goes, right, I told you to do this, why weren't you doing it? And he'll just sit in silence and wait for an answer. And then you'll see off the back of that players who you perhaps, I wouldn't class them as fan favourites, but perhaps fans have more of an affinity with, They don't play because they don't play the way in which that he has asked them to play to go and get results for the betterment of the club. The other side to this is, I would say, is that he as an individual isn't too proud to turn around on a player and say, actually, got it wrong. He needs to be playing. He's better for us when he's playing and I utilise him correctly.
See, from the outside then, I suppose you've obviously watching this Rangers saga from afar. Have you been quite surprised by the disdain or apathy that Rangers fans have had towards him coming in?
I understand it because, again, I think the recruitment strategy of it's the 49ers group who obviously owns it. I think the recruitment strategy there has been very much go and look at value within the second division in England and go and try and take a punt on those players. Jeddy Gassama being a prime example. Jeddy Gassama was one of our better operators, but if you'd have spoken to a Sheffield Wednesday fan last year, we all knew he was raw. You get 6 games where he looks unplayable and he'll do something that is just terrifyingly good, and then he'll go missing for 2 or 3. And you sit there and you're thinking, as a Sheffield Wednesday fan, you're okay with doing that because, again, you have to contextualise it. Sheffield Wednesday haven't paid fees for football players, anything north of £500,000 for about 6 years. So you're able to take that rough with the smooth there. I think I've been most surprised. I say most surprised. I do understand it because I think the recruitment has been poor. I think the players that have been bought in, you'll have obviously spoken to several podcasts and several other fans of those clubs who they've come in and they've gone, oh my word, they're such a great player. And then they go up the road and you're watching them thinking, what is this? Like, what on earth is he? What does he do? Whereas I was speaking to a Rangers fan actually just before coming on, and I just said the thing that I would say about Sheffield Wednesday fans is we have seen so much shit, that actually when a good player or a good manager comes along, you know what they look like. We said the same about Ross Barkley when we had him on loan. We said the same about Jeddy Gassama in terms of being very understanding of where his qualities lay and also where his deficiencies were. Shay Charles, who is now the Northern Ireland captain, he was in the centre of the park for us last year. He was in the top 3 best players in the division last year. It's very obvious to see as a Wednesday fan when good is there and when bad is there. But again, I do understand that Rangers is a massive step up in terms of the size and the scale of the job that's at Rangers. And you are going to have more dissenting voices when Russell Martin's come up here very, very English and very Cockney and very sort of like, oh, it's all going to be wonderful, slick back hair, we're going to play this passing it out from the back style, it's all going to work. And I think fans of Championship clubs would have said, I know you'll have spoken to Southampton podcast when he was appointed. I think if you'd have spoken to other teams that he hadn't managed against was, yeah, they have this capability, but he has to have one of the best sides in the division for this to work. Because if he doesn't have that, like when he was manager at Southampton, they had arguably the best side in the division and they scraped 3rd and went up via the playoffs. Danny Rohl has been, I would argue, for the last 2 seasons, managing with both hands and his legs tied behind his back and still finding a way to turn water into wine in Sheffield 6.
Matt, we have a problem just now with players not sticking to positions, right? So our right back is everywhere except for right back where he's supposed to be. He's left wing, he's centre forward, he's right wing, he's taking corners, he's taking throw-ins, and don't get me. No, Gary, wait. But to be fair, he does get equal. Tavernier was speaking about. He does score goals for us. He scored four of our 8 goals this season. It's not just the right back. Our number 6 is playing number 9, number 8, number 7, number 4. Like we have players that are just all over the place on the park. They're not staying. See when Rohl picks his team, I know he changes formation a lot and he changes and he's adaptable, but what will he think about players that don't stay in position? Because it's not just a right back going up and down, it's not just a number 6 going left and right and maybe going forward now and again. Like even at the weekend against Dundee United, in the first half it was okay because Dundee United played the wrong formation and our team looked fantastic. We were winning 1-0 at half time. when their coach changed it in the second half and put an extra body in midfield, our players were all over the place. In the second half, we had so many players playing out of position that the whole team was completely unbalanced. So, do you think that'll stop and we won't be seeing that moving? Will he sort that out quite quick? Because we have too many egos in our squad, and we have too many players that are trying to do everything and they're not doing anything, if that makes sense.
Yeah, what I would say on James Tavernier is obviously Wednesday fans have seen him because he had a loan spell at Hillsborough. I think, going back to the question that you're asking surrounding Rohl, he doesn't stand for egos if they aren't performing. They will be, I would imagine by the end of this season, if they are not already, they will be the fittest side in the division, because he plays a very intense pressing game, or he has done at Sheffield Wednesday. We have had periods of time where we've sat back, let the opposition have the ball, and actually, because at Sheffield Wednesday we had two very, very fast wingers in Jenny Gassama and Anthony Masaba, he would sit back and then just look to counter and break on teams. Now, again, I don't think he'll be afforded that luxury at Rangers. I think if players aren't pulling their weight, it doesn't matter who it is, he has no problem in hooking them. Absolutely no problem. We saw that with, obviously, again, I know he's a Celtic fan, so apologies, with club captain Barry Bannon. There was a time when he came in where Rohl actually changed him for... who was it? It was Jeff Hendrick, who's had a stint at Newcastle. He came in on loan, and in the first couple of games, he's rotating him with Jeff Hendrick, who was truly one of the worst signings that this club has made. But it was to make a point. It was to make a point to him of, no, I've asked you to stay in the centre of the park and dictate it. You're not doing it. Get off. I'll put him in there. Do I think that will be quite interesting with a squad full of egos and perhaps players who think they are better than they are, or perhaps had moves lined up in the summer that didn't happen? Yeah, I don't think he suffers fools. He just doesn't do it, and he's happy for, irrespective of what the club's hierarchy want to happen. What we've seen historically at Sheffield Wednesday is he doesn't bend, and he doesn't bend or bow to fan pressure in that respect as well, I would say. So Championship journeyman Lee Gregory was a striker who we had in League One, very, very popular amongst Sheffield Wednesday fans. He's a Sheffield lad, was very, very popular. Rohl came in and asked him to do a job. Inside of 60 minutes of the first game, realised he couldn't do it, so didn't play him again. And just said, I'm really sorry, you won't play for me. Like, I'm very, very sorry. I know you've been a fantastic servant for this football club. You're not going to be in my plans moving forward. And just left them out. So would I say that he will coach players and make them better? Yes, absolutely. Good. But it is also on players to listen. And there is a bank of 2 years' worth of evidence to suggest that if players do take on his direction and listen to him, he makes them better. If they don't like it, they find their way to the exit.
Good. Sounds good.
Scott, you want to ask something?
I'll just say, Matt, obviously coming to Rangers it's different for most other clubs because of pressure, right? If you don't win your first game, the fans are on your back, right? And right or wrong, it shouldn't happen. It does happen, right enough. But I feel like when Steven Gerrard came in, he had time because the situation was slightly different. But we lost a final against Celtic, and that when he came in as manager. But on that day, you could see something was working, something was happening. You thought he's not far away from getting a side that's going to challenge and compete quite often. And obviously, they want to win the league not long after that. But I feel Danny Rohl's coming to a position where the flag's it shouldn't really be about him. It should be about the higher ups because he's obviously just in the door, and it's not his fault he's in the door. He probably should have been in before Russell Martin, but he wasn't. But do you feel, given time, I'm not talking like 2 or 3 games, I'm talking a couple of months, the fans will see a difference. It will make you sit back and say, I can see this guy building something here. Maybe we should sit back and give him time yet. It might not be this season. I mean, Rohl said today in his press conference when he announced manager, he said he knows this club you have to win immediately. And that's what we all want, but sometimes that can't happen, no matter how badly you want it to be, because the recruitment in the summer has been very poor. I saw a lot of these players that came from the English Championship. They're good footballers in their own right, but I don't feel they're suited to a club like Rangers. Do you know that way? I feel when the pressure gets going, like Aaron said the same, the fan pressure, he doesn't like it. But you know yourself, if you're signing for a big club or you're signing to play for Rangers, where if you finish second, it's basically a failure, you're going to get pressure, and if you can't hack that, why sign? So do you feel he'll work out who's getting mentality to stay in the team, as in who he knows won't hide when it going gets tough, and who he knows will step up and fight like Tavernier's been doing, even though he does get criticised, he has been doing. And do you feel like 6 to 8 weeks time we'll see something on these squad of players thinking there's guys here we maybe not rated before but might think there is a player there, and maybe the ones that we have rated might say, right, he's maybe not as good as we thought, just because the way Danny Rohl's put him into formation away, he's starting to coach him and think what he's trying to do instead of what we're thinking about these players. Because under Russell Martin, it was nobody knew what he was doing, to be honest with you. Even he didn't.
No, I think that, again, the difference, just going fundamentally looking at the difference between the two coaches in Russell Martin and Danny Rohl. Danny Rohl, irrespective of the squad of players that he has at his disposal, you will have an idea as a fan exactly what he wants. The other thing that I would say about Danny Rohl, and it is worth knowing this about him before he comes in, he's very cute at his messaging towards fans, and it became very obvious to Wednesday fans, definitely towards the back end of his tenure, because he's a naturally very emotionally invested manager. In terms of, you will have seen the videos floating around on social media of him throwing hands up to away ends and punching fists at them and smacking back.
That's a German thing anyway, because all German football clubs do that.
Yeah, so I mean,
they all go like that to the match. So it's a thing they do over there.
But what he, excuse me, what he did when he first came in was he made sure that his messaging was consistent to Sheffield Wednesday fans, which provided a level of stability. And there are similarities to be drawn between the Rangers. I would suggest between Rangers' situation with Steven Gerrard in terms of one of the reasons why I thought Steven Gerrard worked at Rangers was because he was straight talking and he didn't really put any shit down, if that makes sense. Like, he was very straightforward in, look, this isn't good enough and I'm going to work very hard to get it, and the players are going to know. And then the following week or the Saturday or the Tuesday or the Thursday or whenever the next game was, you saw an immediate reaction from the players who he had selected. And it may have been 5 changes and everybody in the stands is going, what? I don't understand why he's gone with this. I don't understand why he started with it. And then you see on the pitch, oh, actually, does know what he's doing, and that buys trust, doesn't it, I suppose, from a fan base. The same will happen, in my opinion, the same will happen at Rangers. And it may be, I'm really pleased that you've mentioned it, Scott, that, yeah, he understands the importance of winning now. I would argue he learned that at Bayern Munich. He understood the importance of winning now. As a manager, he understood the importance of picking up results, excuse me, quickly because of the situation that we were in. But I don't think that necessarily means that he completely abandons all of his ideas about what he wants to do surrounding football just in the pursuit of winning. Because you can win games 1-0 and be absolutely crap to watch, terrible football, and in the big games, you're never really in them. What I would suggest he will do is he's careful at coupling that level of pragmatism with also his ideas for what he wants as well. But he will be very, very blunt and direct in communicating that to yourselves as fans. He will also be very, very blunt and direct in calling out ownership as well, because he did that in his time at Sheffield Wednesday and he wasn't afraid to do so. He was the first manager in, you've got to go back 10 years to actively call out the chairman for their failings, and he didn't look to lay blame at them. But if there were questions that were being asked to him that he didn't feel were appropriate from the perspective of, I'm a head coach, I'm a manager, he would say, you need to ask the chairman. You need to ask the head of recruitment. That's not my remit, which he did going into the last year's January window when we were, just for context, we were on the outskirts of the playoffs. There was never really any chance of getting there, but a little bit of financial investment. Championship was a poor division last year. You may have got there. he basically came out and he was asked by a local journalist, is there going to be money for players in January to extend loans or to go out into the loan market just to give a little bit of a push in the right areas? And he said, don't ask me, ask the chairman. And that then started this big spiral of, well, what are the club not doing? Why aren't they backing him? This is, the best manager that we've had in a long, long time. And that will be a very interesting situation to see at Rangers, because I know a lot of fans are very, very unhappy about the direction and the strategy that the club has taken off the pitch. And Danny Rohl is not shy in forthcoming about the fact of, if he's not happy and if he feels he's not being backed, he won't use it as an excuse. He'll just give you the blunt fact of, I wanted 5 or 6 players. The players that we've bought in, whilst, yes, I appreciate the club have bought players in, they're not to the standard. We played a game away at Stoke at the back end of last year, and the press conference after was genuinely spellbinding. You very rarely get a manager come out and just say, there are about 8 or 9 of this squad who aren't good enough, and they're not good enough and fit enough to play for this club or at the level. But we have 8 or 9 players here who are. And he did so. Caused a lot of rifts and friction within the squad. I would suggest at Rangers at this point in time, perhaps not the worst thing to hear that from somebody as well.
Matt, can I ask you, sorry, before we come to you, Ricky, there's the audience are loving you, Matt, so there's lots of questions. I just want to make sure I get a couple of the questions that are in the comments. So one of them was about Adam Owen and whether he may come as a fitness coach, and I think the other one was about I'm trying to find it again there. Ask Matt if he thinks Adam Owen will come in as part of the backroom staff, and can ask Matt, does he have a set piece coach? Sorry.
Going to the set piece coach, you don't want to bring him. The set piece coach is awful at Wednesday. Danny Rohl, yeah, he does have a few blind spots, and I'm not going to try and sugarcoat and say that it's all, I've painted a very rosy picture of him at the minute. He does have a few blind spots. We were appalling at home for last year in particular. We won 5 games at home. Like, we were terrible at home. That, I think, is probably to do with everything that's going on around the club. It's where the majority of fans see them. The animosity spilled down onto the pitch. It's not a nice place to be at the minute, Hillsborough. Away from home, we were excellent, but that was perhaps because the support at home is not as vocal in terms of letting people know when they have played well or when it's been bad. I wouldn't be surprised if he brings in 1 or 2 of the coaches, but the thing that he has been since the summer, I was going to say since leaving Sheffield Wednesday, not since the summer, since he was still manager at Sheffield Wednesday and touting himself around for several jobs, he went and watched a lot of football and spent a lot of time at other football clubs. And I would be astounded if he hasn't developed further links around the footballing network, and now he will have... when we talk about a budget, you don't have a budget to bring him backroom staff at Sheffield Wednesday. He will have some scope to bring people in who he would like to work with. It wouldn't surprise me if there are some names that people already know about that you see over the next week or 2 come in to bolster that backroom staff.
Ralph Rangnick, hopefully he's still in touch with him. He's got some previous coaches and people that he's worked with in football. The list is absolutely ridiculous. Fink is one of my favourite managers in football today. Do you think with this contact list that he's got, that he'll be able to bring in some gems to Rangers? This is the concern you see with our support. They will think that this is why Gerrard and Muscat didn't end up coming to Rangers, because they didn't have enough control over recruitment. So with a guy like Rolls, if you look at his black book and the names that he can call up to find some players, I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable, the names that he's worked with. So can we expect some gems to come in with him maybe in January or in the summer, because we badly need it?
We thought the same. What I would say is that Sheffield Wednesday have had no budget whatsoever to work with to be able to go and facilitate those deals. The one player that he desperately wanted, which was Shea Charles, who is now playing week in, week out for Southampton, Northern Ireland captain, hands down best player on the park for us week in, week out last year, one of the best players in the division. So he knows a player. I would be very interested to see what the budget is in January and then the following summer. and then looking at how he utilises those contacts, because I think that is something that is an unknown quantity about Danny Rohl, is how much can he tap into those contacts. You know, we were all getting very giddy about like Hansi Flick took the Barcelona job and then come to watch a match at Hillsborough, and we were all thinking, oh yes, all of this untapped La Masia, like all of this, like they're all going to come in, and it never materialised, but that's because of the financial situation off the pitch. So it wouldn't be something that I would rule out, but I can't sit here and say I've got a bank of evidence to suggest he's had a hand in any of that, aside from Shea Charles, who was a very, very good player.
See, in terms of formation and tactics and style and all the sort of stuff that people like to talk about, and as if we all know what it all means, I suppose, what's your observations? Does he have a preferred formation? Does he have a preferred kind of... Well, obviously, there's a German pressing style, but how does he play? Or is it quite flexible in terms of formation, tactics, style? I get very much against the team he's playing against.
In his time at Sheffield Wednesday, he was very adaptable. In his first season, it was win at all costs to try and stay in the division. So we played very defensively. He used smart recruitment in the January window to bring in a striker called Ike Ugbo, who we later signed and hasn't scored a league goal since, who went through a purple patch and scored 7 in 7. He brought in a lad who's now at Sunderland. He was at Leeds at the time, in Jan Poveda, very highly rated young lad, couldn't get fit, would never really kind of loved anywhere. It's proved when he's gone to Sunderland. He got the best out of him for a good 4 or 5 months, and he was instrumental in us staying up. The second season where Rohl was there, so the season just gone, we actually probably saw more of what Danny Rohl would want. If any Rangers fans are looking for to waste an hour and a half, go back and watch our first game of the season at home to Plymouth last year. That is an ideal how Danny Rohl would like to play, which is very free-flowing, lots of interchange of positions of players. So you'll often see your right back drop into central defensive midfield to create an overload in different areas. You will see central midfielders coming really, really deep to receive the ball in like a left back or a right back position, freeing up space further up the pitch. Would he like to have the ball on the floor and play pretty football? I think probably. Does he want to also just go long if that's going to be the best way to get a result? Yes, absolutely. He's the only one non-negotiable, I would say, that you get from a Danny Rohl team is the pressing after immediately losing the ball. In terms of, it is an incredibly high press, and it's not kamikaze, everybody's gone. It's very similar to, I think, the style that was made popular by Klopp and Guardiola, in terms of you've got 10 seconds to win the ball back. If you don't win it back, you're back into a defensive shape and everybody sits and sets up. So it's not, we're just going to press and press and press and hope people play through us. It's a very much get after it. If you can nick it in those first 10 seconds and get on an attack in, I suppose, the transition of a game, do so. If you can't, get back and make sure that you are getting back as quick as possible to help out the back line. Yeah, that would be the only one that I would say. But in terms of formations, style of play, he's very adaptable.
No, I'm going to give Ricky the last question, Matt. So I genuinely appreciate the time you've given up over the last 40 minutes or so. So, Ricky, is there anything you want to ask Matt before we let him go for the evening?
I've got another 15 questions, man. Come on, we'll do a 2-hour special. No, like his first match is obviously a baptism of fire. And I'm not going to say, do you think he knows how to set a team up in Europe? That would be a daft question because he was at Bayern Munich. He's managed some of the biggest teams in Europe. But it's like when you're working with the players for 2 days, it's very, very difficult. Like, because the worst thing about our team this season has been, we were promised we'd be the best pressing team, the best passing team, the best Cockney team, would have the best hairstyles, would wear the best suits, would have everything under Russell Martin. And we got absolute zero of any of that. But our pressing, being serious, has been terrible this season. Even Gassama, to be honest with you, we can sort of see that he works hard, and we've got the players to do it, because Ant-Man, who we've got on the right, he likes to press, But this is what I was on about earlier on with the players. We've been so out of position. Our press has been all over the place. It was the same again on Saturday, and teams just play the ball right over our heads, and then they're on our defence. They either play it in between the fullbacks or they play it, and it's like one pass is, you would not believe the amount of goals we've conceded this season with just one pass. So how do you think you'll be able to set the team up with just 48 hours with a big Europa League match, because we've lost our first 2 games in the Europa League under the amazing Russell Martin? So it's important that for him he gets a victory, for the team he gets a victory, and we really, if we don't win, we've got some tough games coming up against Roma, Porto, some big games. So if he doesn't get this victory on Thursday, then it's going to be very difficult for us to qualify from the Europa League.
Sorry, Ricky, just while you're talking about all those teams that you've got to play, I'm just thinking, oh my goodness me, I'm looking forward to altering them away next year.
That's it, mate. It's madness.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I think you will get every single television on one half of Sheffield will be tuned into the game on Thursday as well. From everything that you've said there and the way in which that Rangers have started the Europa campaign and the league campaign as well, to be fair, I think it will be a very solid shape that he tries to set up with and looks to play on a counter-attack and a break. I don't think he'd look to dominate any sort of a game at this level with just 48 hours. It will look to be something that, as a fan, you can identify with and go, I understand what he's trying to do here. Whether it works or not, I think is then down to the time frame that he's got to actually get his ideas across to players. But also, again, when you were mentioning there about Jeddy Gassama, Jeddy Gassama will, on one hand, really like the fact that Danny Rohl's come in because he got the best out of him. He'll be sick to death of him moaning at him again, because you would hear it from the stands at Hillsborough of him just shouting at him to get back into position. And his work rate did significantly improve last year in terms of getting himself back into the correct defensive position. As you said, Ricky, works very hard, just in the wrong areas. And you think, oh, come on, like, just all you've got to do is get goal side here, and you've just negated everything. I would imagine on Thursday, if you had to put a gun to my head, I would say you're probably looking at a draw on Thursday. I know he needs a win, but I don't think it's going to be the free-flowing attacking football that you may see a couple of months down the line, in terms of it's 100 mile an hour and it's very, very energetic. I think what he will look to do from a side that have been leaking goals, if we're all being honest here, and poor goals, as you mentioned, in terms of it's one pass that seems to just take out an entire 4 or 5 players. Yes. I think he will look to shore that up first and then try to build on it in an attacking sense, because, again, irrespective of what fans, of Rangers who watch the team week in, week out, and you'll know these players far better than myself, there are some good players in there. There are some good players, but it is just finding a way to make this work. Again, just from the top of it, I'd expect to see more out of James Tavernier in terms of what you can probably expect from him. And then also, again, a couple of players in those wider positions. He does give them licence, but if they aren't making the correct decisions, so for argument's sake, Jeddy Gassama not releasing the ball at the right time or finding the right pass, they're left in no uncertain terms not to do it again. So yeah, it'll be, I would imagine, a solid performance on Thursday. I'd hope you nick a win.
That's fantastic, Matt. Do you know, this has been brilliant, and there's been loads and loads of positive comments in the chat. I think people thoroughly enjoyed listening to you. They've really appreciated your insight and your passion. Do you know, as much as anything else, these podcasts are meant to be about people enjoying talking about football, and that's came through the last 45 minutes or so. I think, do you want to give another plug to your podcast? There's a few people in the chat asking what it is before we let you go for the evening.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are looking for a 20 minutes Rangers special that went down swimmingly amongst all Sheffield Wednesday fans last week when Rohl was linked, we are the Wednesday Till I Die podcast. You can find us on X, Spotify, YouTube, all your major podcast providers. Again, if you are looking for some light entertainment of what's going on down the road, it's a shit show at Wednesday at the minute. So yeah, enjoy.
So thank you again, Matt, and we are going to do a seamless transition now. So Matt, you're going to leave us, and we're going to have Ash who's going to join us for another Wednesday podcast and find out a little bit more again. So thank you for your time, and everybody, please watch Wednesday podcast. hopefully Chansiri, who's the most well-known owner in English football, is gone very soon, and you get back to getting the club in the right order. So thanks a lot, and we will hopefully see you again soon.
Matt, just like to sell the best for the rest of the season, and if we won a trophy this year, you can come back on and celebrate it with us.
I'd fucking love to. And so when we get taken over, come on ours, because it'll be a 12-hour drinking session. So take care,
Cheers,
gents.
Matt.
All right.
You take care.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Take care.
So, not one but two Sheffield Wednesday fans, Sheffield Wednesday podders we have. So we are about to bring another one on. I think Matt was fantastic. I think you all agree.
Very good. Very good.
An amazing resume of Danny Rohl. Knew the club, knew the manager, and was able to tell us lots of information. I think listening to the comments or reading the comments outside, people have got much more enthused than they were maybe at 8:30. So we're going to bring Ash on, and we'll kind of follow this discussion. So maybe on a wee bit later than 9:30 tonight, just to keep the discussion going. So there's so much to talk about. So, Ash, welcome to Not Another Rangers podcast. How are we?
Hi guys, I'm fantastic. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk about something other than my owner and administration and all that good stuff. So, looking forward to it. It's gonna be positive and happy, which I've just been on our podcast, and that's not positive or happy at all, mate. So, thank you very much for having me.
Sad, man.
Fantastic. We appreciate you taking the time to join us. So, I don't know if you knew the format. We had one of your colleagues from another podcast, and Matt, and from what was it called? Scott, you remind the name.
Wednesday till I die.
Wednesday till I die. Who's been giving us a bit of a rundown on Danny Rohl. We're now going to hopefully get you to give us another bit of a rundown, Danny Rohl, and some of the main things. But I don't know if you want to start by maybe telling us a little bit about your podcast.
Yes, mate. Thank you very much. Yeah, so we're the Wednesday week. Sheffield Wednesday podcast. Obviously, been going about 11, 12 years, so we're long in the game. Started by a mate of mine and about 4 or 5 others. But yeah, it's we go out live on a Monday night, which is where I've just been talking all things over the weekend. A great result away at Charlton, which we lost 2-1, which is not is how it's been going this season. But yes, mate. We've all things Sheffield Wednesday, good and bad, unfortunately, at the minute.
And currently, it's been quite bad for a while. We're obviously well aware. Even up in Scotland, we do hear about Chansiri, and we do see some of the criticism and obviously the walkouts, walk-ins, and all that stuff that's going on. So it's not a great time to be a Sheffield Wednesday fan at the moment.
No, and obviously I'm talking to you guys I'm saying this quite a lot to all different podcasts who've gone through the ringer themselves with owners. There's quite a lot of teams in England and Scotland that are struggling with owners in the past. So I'm in good company, so I can moan to you guys all night. But no, we're here for positive. Here we are.
Yeah. And on that positive, I suppose what we're going to talk about, obviously, is Rangers appointed Danny Rohl this afternoon to very little fanfare, it has to be said. Obviously, if you keep up to date with Rangers, you might have seen there was obviously talk of Gerrard returning. There was then talk of former player Kevin Muscat becoming. Yeah. And Danny Rohl was pretty much seen as Russell Martin 2.0, I think was often the term used. So one of the things that's probably what we're hoping to do is maybe dispel that a little bit and kind of find out a little bit more about him, so we can start to make our own judgments rather than what you read often on X, which is a quite a negative perception of real life in general.
Obviously Danny Rohl was linked earlier on this season before Russell Martin, so I have kept a little bit of an eye on your manager situation. And to say that you went for Martin was a bit of a surprise for myself, and from the outpouring from Rangers fans they weren't that impressed themselves. So obviously you've managed to make the right decision and get rid of not a massive fan of Martin myself, like I say in the past. But yeah, Danny. What can I say? I mean, obviously you've seen the miracle that he worked at Sheffield Wednesday when he came in through the door. Obviously, we had 2 points on the board, no wins in 12 games, I think it was. It was pretty poor where we were. And look, this young German manager's come through the door, and we do all ourselves, don't we? Get on Wikipedia, we get on the socials and have a look. Who is this manager? Because look, I follow football, but I don't follow it as close as knowing the assistant German head coach, the guy who was at Southampton's thing, the analysis guy, really, from Germany. So we got him in. As Wednesday fans, it's the same. It wasn't the fanfare as you'd think it was. Who is this new upcoming? Got a good pedigree coach coming in. So I think as a lot of Wednesday fans, we're still a bit guarded and a bit like, who is this guy? After Xisco Munoz come, you couldn't get worse than him. So it was one of the, come on, we'll give this guy 35-year-old, come in, we'll give him a chance. What he did in the first few games, don't get me wrong, he lost his first few games. We only got this first win against Rotherham, which is fantastic at home, fantastic win against Rotherham for us. But just from the first game, we played Watford. He was in the club 3 days before we went to Watford away, and instantly you could see a change in the players. You could instantly see the way that he wanted to play. We lost it 1-0. Yes, we lost it, but a 1-0 away at Watford at the time wasn't the worst result. The way that he goes about it, he demands on his players. We play quite a high press. He wants the work rate from the players. He comes across as, look, if you look at his, there's probably 3 parts to Danny Rohl's tenure at Sheffield Wednesday. We had the first season, survival, absolutely fantastic. You can't feel it. We finished above the relegation where everyone thought we were down. 23 managers out of that league thought we were down. All the supporters thought we were down. So come in, did a great job. Then you've got the pre-season. So you've got pre-season of the first season, and then he's demanding on the owner. Now, I don't want to go about the owner, but he plays a massive part in this, because without the owner, we would probably still have Danny Rohl. He's ambitious. He really wants to get on, and we understood that as Sheffield Wednesday fans. And I'm sure he's going to be the same for Rangers. And I know you guys have only just appointed him 5 hours ago or whatever it was, and you don't want to hear that, but he is ambitious, and he probably will see Rangers as a stepping stone. But I suppose as you are fans and you want a manager in to just get you up that league and get to obviously the top of the league in Scotland is bare minimum for you guys. Of course it is. He will demand a lot of his players. You've got Jedi Gassama, who we loved. Really disappointed he left, but we can understand why. And you've got Sal Bibbo. So you've got half of Sheffield up there anyway. So you obviously won't have his backroom staff that we had. So Chris Powell, we know Chris Powell, absolute fantastic, really good. And Henrik Pedersen, who is obviously our manager. So he's coming up. I don't know if he's announced his backroom team, but he's coming up naked, shall we say? And that's not on him. He will get your players playing. He will demand straight away. And I know you can say that about every manager, but on the training field, tactically, and as a man that we heard, he's very good with the players. He demands on them. He knows what he wants. And if you've got players that will sign up for that, then I think, for me, he'll do really well at Rangers.
I'm going to, before I let some others ask questions, I'll pick up a question from the comments from Curry. Did you see any improvement in any particular players at the club, and which positions did they actually, I suppose, improve the most? Was there anything obvious that you thought, that guy was rubbish one season, following season he became a star?
Jedi Gassama. So we had Jedi Gassama, which is, I'm not just saying it for you guys, but when he came in, Xisco Munoz signed him. He was very lightweight. A breath of air would blow him over. But gradually, in the 2 years, he packed on a lot of muscle. He'd grown up as a man, shall we say? And his improvement, his attacking ability, his even defensive, was fantastic. From what we saw in the first half a dozen games to where he finished and left us, we were gutted he left. So you've got that, and I think you'll have to forgive me. I know I don't know your players. I don't know the thing, but any young up-and-coming players like Gassama, 21, 22-year-old, that he will give game time to. He will improve them. Even Barry Bannon. Look, I know you don't like Barry Bannon, no doubt. He's the wrong side. Anyway, he supports the wrong colours. But even him at 34, 35 years old, he did comment that he improved his game as well. So if you have got the older statesman that thinks he's a bit over the hill, he will get rejuvenated by Danny Rohl. So I'm sure there'll be some crowd favourites that might think through Russell Martin they weren't going to get much game time or anything, but I'm sure he's gonna improve them.
Ash, I don't know if you know. I mean, we've got police signed players like Joe Rothwell from. It was previously at Leeds United. He's been at Blackburn. He came to Rangers. Yeah, obviously Thelwell, Asgard. That was at Luton, and they've both of them have struggled this season. Thelwell was played okay on Saturday. Rothwell has been struggling. He looks a bit lack of fitness, but he's just been struggling to get into the game like he done at Leeds. Are these two type of guys? Do you think Rohl's going to improve these two, or do you think these two type of guys that you'll look at maybe won't get better in, or do you think they're two guys you can improve to? Because these guys come up to Scotland with a lot of reputation because they played, obviously, Asgard played in the Premiership, the Luton Championship, Rothwell was at Leeds, big club, Blackburn captain and stuff like that, but they come up here and they've kind of flattered to deceive.
The only problem I can see is that we've had reports, and we've had an ex-player of ours, Lee Gregory, on our podcast a month ago, and he was one who fell foul of Danny Rohl. So he just wasn't in his plans. He just flatly refused to sign him. We were struggling for goals. And Lee Gregory, yes, at 34, 35, he's getting towards the twilight, but he still had goals in him. And he was just flatly refused to play. He wasn't allowed. It got to a thing of he trained every day. He was going in and he was just told, no, you're just not going to be playing. So he will probably make decisions. I'm not saying that's going to happen in the first few months, but obviously he will get to a place of he knows who his players are, who he can trust, and he probably will be ruthless to say, I don't care who you are. If you're not going to fit in the sort of style I want to play, and my philosophy, I hate that word, but do you know that the way he puts across that his teams are going to press and play, then there will be just surplus to requirements is the phrase, isn't it? So I think that is going to be one thing, and that might be a good thing. You may have got some passengers that you guys think for a couple of seasons have not wanted, but it might end up being a fan favourite that it doesn't fit.
Yeah. Ash, defensively, Rangers have been a bit all over the place. Not just this season, probably last season. I mean, we conceded almost double the goals that Celtic conceded last season, and that was a big part of the reason that we were never in the title race. This season, we've conceded 9, scored 8 after 8 matches, which for Rangers is just absolutely shocking. So, do you think Rohl will be able to sort that out? I mean, we got rid of 3 left backs and brought in 1 left back from when was it? Who was it again? Brentford. A 19-year-old. He's an England internationalist, 19-year-old. But for Rangers to have 1 19-year-old left back, so like I think he's been sold that he's got this squad that's all absolutely fantastic. He used the word balance today in his interview. He actually spoke very well. I don't know if you saw his interview after he was announced today. No, he spoke about the squad being balanced, when in reality it's anything but balanced. So do you think you'll be able to sort out the defence and stop us leaking goals? Because some of the goals that we concede are absolute comical. It's 1 ball over the top in between the fullback, or it's 1 ball over the top and the defenders are like Tom and Jerry chasing the ball. It's shocking, some of the goals we concede.
It's I mean, just going to his press conference, he's going to say everything. He's going to say all the highlight reels into, like you said, he said about balanced. Has he really looked at it and find out? Because you guys know more than him. Surely he's only just turned up. But I'd love to say yes. But to be honest, guys, we had some shocking results. We lost quite a lot, 4-0, 5-0. We lost a couple, 6-0 under Danny Rohl as well. But that is not to say that is the manager's fault. We do still put a lot of emphasis on our team through the owner. We didn't strengthen. We were getting free players. We were playing a 33-year-old right back as a centre back. We were playing like a left back as a centre back. So we had our issues. So that's not to say that Danny Rohl cannot improve the defenders or play in a style that's going to suit the players he's got. It's just highlights that he was working on a bit of one hand tied behind his back as well, you could say. So it's hard to say that. But I would just go on the sort of management that he did and what he achieved at Sheffield Wednesday, and that's all we can go with. He, like I say, he came in and he did sort the team out. He did get them playing not so much front foot, but pressing high, and then the defending was improved, but it wasn't like we didn't go on 4 or 5 games with clean sheets. We were leaky goals as well. We did have a dodgy keeper sometimes in James Beadle as well, which doesn't help. But he's not. I wouldn't say he's going to be a he's not going to be a Sam Allardyce. Put it that way.
Okay.
He's not going to be going, I'm defensive first. That's it. If they don't score, we've got a chance of winning. It will be a front-footed pressing manager, which is good for us fans that want to see that. And I know you didn't get that from Martin, did you?
No, not at all.
Chance.
I'm trying to pick up some of the questions and comments. Ash, there's lots coming in. People are fascinated to find out more about. So I'll try and get them as best I can in order. So there was one around from Curry. So did Danny Rohl bring in any young German talent? Obviously, his time at Bayern Munich and the German national team, you'd expect these young German efficient superstars to be en route.
Yeah, we thought exactly the same. It was going to be. Danny's been in the German game. He knows a lot of people in Germany. We were going to get the 18, 19, 20-year-olds from Bayern Munich, from Dortmund, and we didn't get one. We didn't get any. Now, that's not to say that he hasn't got those contacts and that he had the opportunity. It's probably more that our owner didn't want to back him like that. He wanted to go with tried and tested players. He backed us with, like I said, Jedi Gassama and Anthony Masaba in the summer before Danny arrived. So we did get a couple of youngsters in, but no German superstars, unfortunately.
So that's right. So that was a question from Shona. There's a couple of questions from Shona, but she talks about Sasha Lenz, is that his name? And yes. Probably there's also been rumours around Lee Wallace. I don't know where the connection is. So Lee Wallace, former Rangers player, former Rangers captain, actually played out with QPR in the Championship, you might remember. But there seems to be some sort of link between him and Danny Rohl that seems to be talked about as well. But so Sasha Lenz and coaching staff are all more general around sort of people they might look to bring in with them.
Yeah, Sasha Lenz is no longer at the club. I'm not sure where he is. But one thing I think Danny did get right, and I mentioned earlier, is he came in Sheffield Wednesday, first managerial position. He wanted to surround himself with people, A, who he knew, and 2, somebody who knew the league. Chris Powell, absolutely inspired backroom staff. So I would imagine that Lee Wallace is going to be that sort of backroom staff assistant to Danny, because knows the club, and we all love that phrase, knows the league, and he needs that because, no disrespect, I'm sure he doesn't know much about Scottish football at all. And as fans, we loved Chris Powell. We had a bit of history with Sheffield Wednesday, but we got over that. But I think it was for Danny to recognise that going into a league and a country that he'd worked in with Southampton, so he knew the Premier League, but not the Championship. So for him to come to the Championship with Chris Powell, I think that was inspired, and I think that's probably what he's going to look for with Rangers, Lee Wallace, and maybe a couple of others. But yeah, Sal Bibbo, who he knows, so he's already got somebody there, like I said, and Gassama he's worked with. So I would say that he was going to look at somebody who knows Rangers, and if it is, like I say, Lee Wallace, then I think that'd be a great move from Danny.
Yeah. And before I come to Scott and Ricky, the other question, fitness has been talked about a lot. You know, and fitness is often used when a new manager comes in to say they're going to be fitter than ever. But it does seem to be something they've talked about, Danny Rohl and his pressing style, and they need to be quite intense, need to be quite fit, and that was quite. Did you see a change at Sheffield Wednesday from when he came in? During the time there, the players looked fitter and ran faster and ran harder and all that other stuff.
I think I don't know whether it'll be down to fitness, but I think it'll just be obviously new manager wanting to impress. You've got a different style of play to Cisco, who the manager was before, and that did not go well. But yeah, you're right. The way that he wants the team to set up and play, yes, you've got to be fit. And with his backroom staff, he'll be working on that. He will. I'm not quite sure of obviously the ins and outs of the Scottish game and thing, but and your squad in particular, but that's what you want as fans, don't you? You want to see at least an upturn of 110% in the players that were there to impress the new manager. And I suppose if they know that he's got a history of being ruthless in his decisions, then they're going to be put that extra 10% in, 20% in. So I wouldn't say Sheffield Wednesday players improve fitness wise, probably improve coaching wise and the way they played and the way they set up, which helped. But I couldn't say that the fitness improved because we always had injuries as well and we were short on players. So players were.
It's one of those stock answers about the mentality, fitness. People throw out these buzzwords all the time, whenever as if that makes a change. Scott, if you get something you want to ask.
Well, I think everything's been covered regarding what we've wanted to ask, and it's just, I think when he first came through the door, Ash, it's like obviously when he was first linked with the club, you're thinking he's only managed Sheffield Wednesday. He's not for a long time, not for a long period. It was maybe 18 months or something. Was it Wednesday? Wasn't it 18 months, 2 years? And we were thinking we're looking for a bigger name, or we're looking for somebody bigger than this. But I listened to his press conference today, and listen, everybody speaks well in press conference. Everybody came out with the usual. He spoke well. He did speak well. But I think it's just what he came across. I remember Russell Martin, and I was thinking, I'm not too sure here. But Danny Rohl did actually come across as actually knowing what he's talking about. Rather, Russell Martin to me was more of a blagger, if you know what I mean. So I just think the fans need to give him time, because obviously you've seen him. Your club is obviously going through turmoil, and you're going through a bad moment. Yeah, we've got money to spend and stuff, but obviously the ownership and the CEO and whatever, the fans don't really like that kind of what's happening at the moment. So there's a bit of, what would you say, a bit of disagreement between the fans and the ownership and the manager.
Disconnect.
Yeah. There's been banners, there's been protests and stuff like that. Martin was included. So, and that's a kind of different end of the scale where yous are coming from, because yous are wanting a new owner in and financial reasons and stuff. So I'm just hoping this doesn't affect Danny Rohl, because none of this is his problem. I would just like him to come in and get some time, because going with what you've said and what you're hearing, what I'm reading, and what I've said myself. Listen, if you asked me 2 weeks ago, and I said to you two, I'd rather have Steven Gerrard back just because of the name. Because I thought somebody had to come in to pull the club together again. But thinking more about it, and you do that as a fan, you go over everything, you read everything about him, you listen. But I think this could be a really sensible signing for Rangers, getting this guy in. I do really, I'm starting to think that, and I could be wrong next week if you lose, and next weekend, criticizing them, but I do. And, I mean, obviously he had issues at Wednesday, Ash, but you never really got on the guy's back because the issues he was having, because you seen there was progress happening on the park, even if it was just tiny bits. You seen there was progress happening, and that's all I'm looking for. I don't expect him to come in the door and win the league, because I think that's kind of out with our reach. But I would expect him to come in and maybe in a couple of weeks' time we're winning games, because that's all I want to see is winning games. To take a game at a time and just start winning football matches, because the money we spent and the players have got, even though recruitment's been poor, I think someday a better manager can organise this group of players better. Put it that way.
There was a couple of things I was going to mention, and I've just reading the comments coming through, and the questions was asked was obviously he did go AWOL at Sheffield Wednesday. Now, that there was probably two major factors in that. Southampton took an interest, so they lost their manager, and they took an interest in him. They approached the club. He wanted to go. He wanted to at least talk Sheffield Wednesday, and the owner didn't let them. Didn't let him. The owner chucked his teddy out like he usually does and didn't want them. So that was one of the things that Danny wasn't happy about. He wanted the ability to go, and you wouldn't blame him. He's not being paid. He's gone through all sorts with the owner, so you don't want to hear that from your manager. But from that, you really did see a change in his post-match interviews. So it was very much like defending the players, saying it's my team and my players, we're doing this, but then a couple of weeks after January, when Southampton did come in for him, it was very much against the owner. And one of the other things was that I seen that on social media, because I work with a guy, big Glasgow Rangers fan. He was in the office today, so I got to talk to him. But he was saying that these two guys, is it the CEO and another guy that you're really upset with, and they're saying that the Danny Rohl's a yes man. He's going to be a puppet for these guys. He won't be. He's the only manager in probably the 10 years that our owner's been there that has been publicly standing up to him in press conferences, in post-match. Well, there you go. He just had a comment come up there. I personally don't think that. I think he fought his corner. He knows what he wants. Like I say, he's ambitious. He wanted to move to Southampton. And the only worry that would be in 12 months, if he does a real good job for the Rangers, then the first person that comes calling, he will turn his head. And you don't want to hear that. He's only been in the job 5, but I'm giving you an honest opinion of how it felt as a Sheffield Wednesday fan about Danny. Fantastic for us, really well. But then as soon as a perceived bigger club, Southampton, which he'd been at before, come knocking, he did knock down tools. We finished 12th in the league, which was fantastic for us. But you could tell he didn't want to be there. And then the last game of the season, he flew back to Germany. He came back after pre-season like 2 or 3 weeks late and lasted about 4 days and then parted company. So a bit of a word of warning, but there you go. He's an ambitious manager, isn't he? He's going to be, and if he does well in the club and the team and the club he's in, he's going to be looking, or people will be calling, should I say? So
last question for me, mate. Ibrox is quite a frustrated place. You can imagine 15 years, 3 trophies in 15 years for Rangers is no good enough. It's not just against Danny Rohl. It's not just against the owners, the CEO, director of football. It's like 15 years of built-up frustration. The Americans came in and we thought we'd hit the jackpot and everything. All our dreams were going to come true. And we've been trumped. We've had it's been a lot.
I'll swap you.
I know, mate. I know. We've been through what you've been through, mate. But so what of the frustration is no actually against Danny Rohl. But I'd imagine that he's been at Bayern Munich and that's probably one of maybe even his boyhood club. So he understands if Bayern Munich only won 3 trophies in 15 years, it would be the same in Germany. It would be absolute chaos over there. So, I don't know what it's like at Hillsborough. Do the fans get on the players back in the second half of the go behind and stuff? How do you think you'll handle that? Because Ibrox can be one of the best stadiums in the world for sure. The fans can be super supportive. It was the same on Saturday. So the first half, it wasn't like a normal league game because the fans wanted to get behind the team. The atmosphere was amazing for a normal league game. And then in the second half, when the players just basically stopped doing everything they did in the first half and didn't turn up, they were super poor. The fans start getting on the players' backs and stuff like that. So how do you think he'll handle that? And because I don't know if he's experienced that before.
No, it's definitely not experienced. Well, not at Sheffield Wednesday of 50-odd thousand in a stadium. I think we're lucky to get 27, 28. And obviously when it is sold out, we're up to 30, 32. I think it's the maximum at Hillsborough now these days. I do think it, like I said before, I alluded to before, he's very much his team. If you end up losing 2-0, I don't know, losing 2-0 at home, he'll come into the press conference, he'll take all the heat off the players and everything. I do think that it's a different atmosphere, isn't it? I'm so, like any football fan, your team loses at home 2-0, you're going to be on the team. I've got no doubt he will take that. He will be able to handle that. Obviously, that happens 3 or 4 times on the trot or something. I don't think there's any manager who's going to be able to handle that. But I think as he is at Sheffield Wednesday, obviously with how he got us playing and how we survived, he was really took on board. He had a song. It was sung every game. Even the DJ at the ground played it. It was a great atmosphere when we won. It was fantastic, and he was fully embraced with that. We played Coventry away last season. We won like 2-1. and sprinting on the pitch. You know, it was great to see. He was always like up to the away fans first, always appreciative of fans. So I think he'll go around the stands. He used to go around the 3 stands at Hillsborough, clapping everyone after the game. He really does understand that. Even in the first few games at Hillsborough, he really took to the crowd, and I'm sure he'll do exactly the same. It all helps results, of course. They all help. We're not stupid. We know what thing. It's going to be hard for him, but I'm sure he'll take it in his stride. Well, he's got his background to his footballing is, like I said, German national team, Bayern Munich. He's been in and amongst it. He knows what it's like, and that's not taking anything from my team, Sheffield Wednesday. So it's all good being the assistant or the stats man, but when you are the man, it's a total different story, and especially going to Rangers. But I've got no doubt that he'll be a success. He will get you up the league pretty quick, and then, like I say, I would imagine, even looking at the league now, he will be saying to them, "You can still win it."
Yeah,
you've got to go into a team. You've got to go into any dressing room and not just go, "All right, I think we'll finish 4th, 5th," you know, and give it a go next season. He will be going in that bullish, should we call it, and saying that you guys can still win it. So I'm sure he's going to be a huge success. I just wish he were at Sheffield Wednesday.
That's brilliant, Ash. You know, thanks for that. And that's a perfect way to finish. You know, I think it's going to be a huge success. It's been great having you and your fellow Sheffield Wednesday podcaster on. Really positive about Danny Rohl, which is good for us. You know, we brought him in.
Fantastic.
Some of the comments saying we Quinn quite apathetic a little bit, yeah. And now on 16 minutes later, we're all going out buzzing looking for a Danny Rohl song. Danny Rohl, Danny Rohl. I'll see you in the chat.
Yeah, Daddy.
That's it.
Danny cool.
Danny Rohl. Danny Rohl. Danny Rohl.
I'm not going to sing that anymore. I'll tell you what, from all the blue and white half of Sheffield and probably 99% of Sheffield Wednesday, we'll let you have that song. There you go. You can have it. We'll let you have it because we'll not be singing that. We'll have to get another one for our manager at the minute.
And you know what? I was thinking Henrik Pedersen. I vaguely remember him in Football Manager years ago. What a striker he was! He used to score tons of goals. He was an outstanding striker back in the day. So, Ash, we genuinely appreciate you coming on, giving up your time. We know you're obviously doing a podcast before this, so it's been a long couple of hours for you talking, hopefully, some enjoyable stuff about Rangers and about the former manager. It's really opened up our eyes. Certainly, you know, I think it's fair to say, probably last week we were doing the podcast, we were a little bit, you know, Danny Rohl's not got the gumption for this to try and use a flight term. But listening to what you said, you know, he seems to have the character, that pragmatism, and also the ability to get a team playing, which is what we need. We don't need a philosophy manager. We don't need a coach that's got a certain style only. We want somebody that can do different things and get you to win, which is probably what all good Germans are like.
Yeah. Efficient. Yes. I think that's what you need. You need efficiency.
That's what we need.
That's it. 100%,
man.
So before we go, Ash, you want to give another plug for your podcast, just where people can find it, the name of it, etc. And
yes, mate. Thank you very much. Yeah, the Wednesday week, we're on all the socials, TWW Cast on X and Facebook and all that good stuff. But it's been great to be positive for 20 minutes tonight, lads. I really appreciate that. It's great. I needed that.
Thank you.
But yeah, we're I'm not usually this happy. I'm the miserable on the podcast. So if you like to see us miserable, we did have a couple of Rangers supporters come on our live chat earlier on, so that was great. So thank you very much for that, everyone. But yeah, good luck for the season, obviously, and good luck with Danny Rohl.
Same yourself, Ash. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks all for your time. Thanks. We appreciate it. Thank you. Bye now. So that's been a positive hour and 20 minutes, isn't it?
That was enjoyable, boys. That was really enjoyable. Great to get. We never got any Southampton fans saying that about Martin. So.
Scott, can you find any of them on the podcast?
I know, mate.
That's the main sense I've spoken a podcast for years.
Same, mate.
Ricky still had his wee tavern here, man, didn't he?
No, it was against all the players about holding position, because second half on Saturday, The players were all over the place, man. It was like an under-9s match. Anyway, that's a different pod. We'll speak about that on Friday.
So as we finish, I think we'll all come to the end because it's been an hour and 20 minutes. I don't know, Ricky, just your observations of listening to both Ash and Matt.
No, brilliant, both of them. I thought there was a good mixture there. Matt was a bit like myself, who loves to talk, and then other guy was a little bit more pointed with his but really appreciate both of them coming on. I thought that was excellent the way. And to be honest, I really like. I'm starting to warm to Mr. Rohl, but obviously, Kerr hit the nail on the head. It doesn't matter who the Rangers manager is. You need to win. You need to win fast, and you need to show us something. If we can see that, both fans will get behind it.
Yeah, and Scott, he's just stole your lines in there as a company. So you're
going
to say that, you say something else.
He's too busy singing and stealing my lines. What's his next trick? I enjoyed that myself. We were getting fed up with the constant negativity, weren't we? We'll probably go back to that in the next podcast, but it's good to just sit, have a laugh, hear other fans talking about somebody, because, like you said about Russell Martin, we had a lot of Southampton fans give him another kind of feedback. It wasn't great, so it's good to start, and all we can do is, when you go to games, watch games, is give him some time. We can't keep changing managers, and I know that's not an excuse for not changing managers, especially if it's not working, but we need to give Danny Rohl time, because we know the squad of players he's got. We know some he might improve, some he might not. We probably needs a window or two, but we need to give this guy time. He's a young, pragmatic manager. He's coming in with his own ideas, and I know when I said earlier, he spoke well in an interview, and which is a cliche, because everybody says that when you hear somebody speaking, but I have to say, I thought he was really, really good. He spoke about Rangers in a way which I've not really heard somebody speaking about Rangers. Russell Martin never spoke about Rangers like that. You can even Patrick Stewart, and I'm not really mention him, but he never speaks about us that way, because he hates us. But and good thing to see him get here. He's wearing a shirt and tie. Now Russell couldn't wear a shirt and tie because he was sweating too much. But
it's winter time though.
It was the same suit. It was the same suit that Russell Martin was wearing at his unveiling. And I noticed during all the videos they didn't show his feet, so he must have had the same trainers on. He had them black and
the superimpose ahead with AI, is it?
Yeah, no, but they didn't show his feet at all. Any pictures today, they didn't show his feet, so I thought that was quite funny and amusing, and none of the pictures there. And I wonder if there'll be a press conference. I wonder if Stewart...
There's one tomorrow.
One tomorrow?
Definitely.
One tomorrow with them all, aye. One tomorrow with them all. Fan media will be there, but there's one tomorrow with them all, so...
I think they've all come out and own up to a lot of mistakes. I think they're going to need to. I think they'll come out and to basically say they made a mess of things, and they'll get it right. And that's probably what you'd expect.
To be honest with you, Gary, see the statement he released, but in the 4 numpties talking on it. All that was see the statement Ranger released with Kavanagh.
Well, they don't write the statement anyway. Somebody else writes it. See,
it was nonsense. Everybody knew it was nonsense. See, if he just actually told us the truth, we'd be like, right, no worry, you ballsed it up, tell us the truth, and that's it. But it's trying to say he was this, he was that, the same bullshit they fed as Russell Martin.
See, fair, I'm going to. I said this. I was obviously a bit of a
Gary, take your CEO head off for a minute and put your fan head on.
I'm going to give a quick plug just because it was on Northern Ireland Bear Show, Hands Across the Water earlier on, and so please watch that, guys. But one of the things I said on that, I actually think Danny Rohl. I'm convinced and remain convinced that Danny Rohl was probably the one they liked the best. But I think the whole fan criticism,
100%.
Gerrard and so I think when Gerrard and Muscat not happened, they went back and thought, you know what, this is actually the one we like the best, so we're going to go with it and hopefully see how it goes. Because everything you've read, everything you listed, Danny Rohl's been highly in the thoughts now for whatever reason. They seem to went a bit further down the line.
That's what I mean. I agree with you in that 100%, but I just feel the bullshit the fans at times. Just tells the truth.
Yes.
If he tells the truth, they'll get more respect back.
No, I agree. And anyway, this is a positive pod. I don't want to. Let's not talk about them.
But I'm looking forward to him being in charge and try to take us forward. But like I say, he needs time, and I know there's still question marks about different things, but we need to get behind them because I think there's something there.
Yeah. So we're going to come to the end of the pod. So thank you to Ricky, Scott, and certainly to Matt and Ash for joining us. Thank you to the hundreds of people that have been watching and making lots of comments. We do appreciate it. It's been a positive pod. I'm certainly more enthused about Danny Rohl Ricky, give us one last rendition before we leave.
Danny Rohl, Danny Rohl. Let's go, boys. Let's go.
So we will be back on Friday night after the game away to Brann, hopefully with Danny Rohl's first victory and a positive pod to talk about as we actually, because it's always very good until the football starts. That's when it goes horribly wrong. So here's hoping with the football is positive and we have something good to talk about. We will see you on Friday. Thank you, everybody, for watching, tuning in, and all your comments and participation. And enjoy your next few days. Take care now. Bye now.